Assembly Bill 1100 by Assemblymember Lowe and act relating to ballot initiatives.
Senator Lara.
Thank you, Madam President and members. AB 1100 will adjust the filing fee that is paid to the Attorney General's office when an individual submits a ballot initiative proposal from $200 to $2,000. Recent floor amendments lowered the fee and removed the biannual CPI adjustments. The $200 fee was members first set in 72 years ago to cover administrative costs by the AG to analyze a proposal and prepare its title and summary. Using the Consumer Price Index, the $200 fee is roughly translates to $2,500. This increase will assist the AG and reduce the pressure on the general fund. Ultimately, if an initiative makes it to the ballot, the $2,500 will be refunded. Members, just to give you an idea that the AG estimates that an average 56 hours of staff time is accumulated in preparation of each title and summary. Although the fee is only $200, the average cost to the state was upwards to $8,000 per initiative. Any cost for preparing title and summary that exceeds a $200 fee is ultimately covered by the general fund. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Senator Hertzberg, followed by Senator Nielsen. Senator Hertzberg.
You know, in the constitutional history of California, a little bit over 100 years ago, the notion of a direct democracy, for better or for worse, has become embedded in our constitutional psyche. It was initially because of the corruption of the railroads. There have been a lot of uses of these initiatives in ways that have been, in my judgment, inappropriate, where you have the masses rule and trying to impose often what has turned out to be unconstitutional outcomes. We have seen, in my judgment, things that are good, the change in the term limit law, the 50% plus one on budget votes. But this is an issue that I have worked on for more than 20 years. When I served in government before, we had a commission. I have been involved in this at every level. And I'm telling you, as reasonable as it sounds on the surface, raising fees for everyday Californians from $200 to $2,000 is no different than the traffic ticket issue that I've been dealing with, where you raise a ticket from $200 to $2,000. If what Mr. Lara says is correct, and I believe it is, that if it is in fact 56 hours it takes, and if the principle is that the citizens of California, if they want to exercise this right, should pay the cost, then they should pay the cost. And it is also true that it hasn't been raised. I have no quarrel with that. But what my challenge is on a personal level is this sends a message to the public in a way that says, we as the legislature are telling them that we want to put barriers up against their right to participate in the system. At the end of the day, we know that this is not about paying for that bill. We know that there are egregious issues that are often put on the ballot that are used for $200 to make a point that's wrong. But that is the price that we pay in a democracy, to often have to deal with our toughest enemies in the democratic arena. And we have bills of rights and we have balances in our constitutional construct to be able to deal with this. And I just think the notion, it's hard for me to stand up against my dear friend Mr. Lara or Mr. Lowe and my party and say I don't support this raise from $200 to $2,000. Because I just think it sends the message to everyday folks in public. We see a presidential race where, in my judgment, the race on both sides and both parties is not about the merits of what it is, but just a frustration with government. I'm mad as hell and I'm not taking it anymore. And if, in fact, we don't have a justification and the message says you should pay the costs, which a bill should say, but we're going to say because we haven't raised the price, we're going to raise the barrier for folks to exercise this fundamental right that they hold in the highest regard, I just can't support. I thank you very much for listening.
Senator Nielsen.
Madam President and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this measure is not about relieving pressure on the general fund. That's a ludicrous argument. It's about deterring citizens from being able to qualify initiatives. And that's all it's about. And I think it just fits into the picture of what has happened to our citizens now by their government funding itself through fees and fines. Every agency is trying every way they can figure out to increase fees, to increase fines, to make money, in part to get off of the general fund, so they do not have a legislature in the budget kind of controlling them a little bit. They want to be independent. See, this is all about more money for government? No, I wish it was. It would be a little easier to maybe consider voting for this. More money for something that was really needed, that this is not needed. To the contrary, direct democracy must be protected. That's a fundamental. Now, has it been abused? Absolutely. Prop 47, we're now reaping the fruits of the deceit in Proposition 47 and the increase in burglaries, and particularly car burglaries. Yes, they can be deceitful. Yes, we don't agree with some, but we have our opportunity as citizens to campaign against the initiatives. But this is clearly in the face of the citizens. Here, we're going to give you bigger fees to pay, and we're going to discourage you from circulating petitions and getting issues on the ballot that, quite frankly, are there because the legislature neglected to do its job, and the people got frustrated, took it into their own hands, as they did so nobly with Proposition 13. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not give government more power, more costs imposed on all of us, and discourage us from direct democracy. I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Senator Mendoza.
Members, I rise in support of AB 1100. You know, for years I've seen this bill come forward, and it's desperately needed. You know, it's not everyday Californians who actually go and, you know, try to get the title and summary from the AG's office. No, they're political scientists, the political consultants that put in 10 or 15 of these measures, try to figure out by the time the AG does all the research, they're out doing their polling. By the time the polling gets done, it's okay, well, out of the 10 that we submitted, yeah, we actually like this one because the poll said that was the best one to use. And all the work that was done for the rest of the measures just went to waste. And we're using up valuable government time. So I'm here to rise in support of this very important bill to stop the wasteful actions of a few political savvy individuals and organizations that are out there just abusing our government so they can push their measures or certain, I guess, initiatives. So with that, I rise in support and urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow colleagues, I rise in opposition to AB 275. Nobody ever said that democracy was cheap. And I think that this is an assault on low-income people that are frustrated with state government, that want to use the initiative process to voice their opposition to what may be done up here in the state capitol. They may not have the funds to put a campaign together, but they feel good that they paid that $200 fee and they're going to fight that tax that might have been proposed, or a regulation or a fee that might have been proposed by the legislature. This is their voice. Let's not attack low-income people and give them the right to challenge their government. I think this is wrong. $200 to $2,000. It was mentioned that the AG puts in a certain amount of time. Well, we pay taxes that funds the AG's office, and not every aspect of government has to have a cost recovery modality associated with it. This is just a tax. This is a hindrance on democracy for the citizens that should have a voice in what happens in our great state. I respectfully ask for a no vote.
Thank you. Senator Anderson.
I also rise in opposition. I want to thank my colleagues that spoke before me. I agree with their points. We don't charge people a poll tax. Why is that? Because we value their vote. We value their participation in democracy. And yet, if we move forward with this, we're effectively putting a poll tax on the poor that have a right to the same initiative process as anyone else. You know, if you wanted to collect the signatures, you could do it on a strictly volunteer basis. You wouldn't have to pay people to stand in front of Walmart or elsewhere to collect those signatures. The process is arduous enough to qualify for the ballot. And the fact that you can collect that many signatures from qualified voters is a strong indication that this legislature has failed its job. You see, if we were doing our job, then citizens wouldn't feel obligated to collect those signatures and put it on the ballot and bypass this process. In a way, this is a judgment on us. So if we add that fee from 200 to 2,000, it's an insult to injury of our citizens that we're supposed to represent and understand their issues and their concerns and bring forth here on the Senate floor or on the Assembly floor. I would ask that we'd put our constituents first and their needs first and have a sympathetic ear to allow them to participate in the process. I urge a no vote.
Senator Allen.
I just wanted to rise to say a couple things about the bill as it related to my committee. First of all, the bill came to us. The original proposal was around $8,000, which is apparently the actual cost associated with handling all of these matters that come before the AG's office. We knocked it down significantly. We actually knocked it down below what inflation would have charged. If you go back and look at the original fee put on this type of filing, and you then correct for inflation, this $2,000 number is below that number. So just to give some historical perspective to folks, all this does is get us to a little bit lower than where the original fee was when it was first imposed because of inflation. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, and it's why I think that this is a reasonable, really modest bill that I'm going to support.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I had no intention to speak on this, but you've all inspired me. There seems to be this very romantic, antiquated notion of our initiative process that makes us feel warm and fuzzy, that it's low-income, everyday, workaday people who get out there and voluntarily collect hundreds of thousands of signatures. It doesn't happen, and we all know that. I doubt that anyone on this floor can name 1, 2, or 3 of the last initiatives that have qualified purely through a volunteer effort. It takes $1 million plus to get us signatures for a ballot. $2,500 is a relatively modest amount of money to show that you are real, you have intent, and you have the wherewithal to begin to collect hundreds of thousands of signatures that will probably cost you at least $1 million. $1 million, 2,500. And this 2,500, as it is not even, as has been mentioned, adjusted for inflation, is as burdensome as $200 was in 1943. So if this is so horrible, what our colleagues did back in 1943 was equally horrible. And did it stop the initiative process from growing and growing and growing? Of course not. But let's not forget why Assemblyman Lowe brought this measure forward. There are some lunatics out there, and for $200, we encourage them to put measures on the ballot that say we should put a gun to the head of someone who is gay or lesbian, bisexual or transgender. That's what this is about. Clearing out what's nonsense, clearly unconstitutional, so that the real significance and meaning and power of our citizens' initiative process can get cleared out and made use of as it was originally intended. So I think this is completely supportable. It merely, not even, adjusts for inflation, something that this legislature should have done 10, 20, or 30, 40 years ago. It's time we do it. I would ask for your aye vote.
Senator Anderson, are you asking to be recognized again on this measure?
Yes, please.
Proceed.
You know, the reason why I addressed the poor was because if I'm crazy and I'm a millionaire, $200, $2,000 doesn't really impact me. and I'm going to afford to purchase all those walkers to walk and collect signatures. So we're not going to stop crazy millionaires. What we are going to do is we're going to put a chilling effect on poor people that want a voice in the process. I don't want to put a glass ceiling. I don't want to hide them in a closet. I want to hear from those people. They have a right to the process as much as everybody else does. To deny poor people access to their government is absolutely outrageous. And we don't have a tax on voters, and we don't have a poll tax because we encourage everybody to participate in the process. And I don't think anybody's pushing this bill because they hate poor people. I think they're doing it because they're reacting too strongly to some crazy people. There's two things in politics that I can't stop. I can't stop a rich man from wasting his money, and I can't stop a poor man from wasting his time. And thirdly, I can't stop a crazy man from being crazy. So if this bill is intended to stop crazy rich men, it falls far short. But what it does do, with great certainty, is it hurts poor people who want a voice. I still urge a no vote.
Senator Hertzberg, are you also asking to be recognized a second time on this measure? Proceed. You're on.
You know, it really doesn't matter whether the price is $200 or $2,000 as it relates to the folks that spend millions of dollars getting signatures. That's not the issue I address. And I completely agree that that's an appropriate, reasonable, and accurate argument. There is a tension that exists between us as an elected legislative body having the ability to write the law and the sacred right, whether used appropriately or inappropriately, in the most offensive manner or not, by the people to do so. So if, in fact, we are not solving a budget problem by virtue of a $2,000 fee, if, in fact, we are not having a chilling effect on folks who engage in inappropriate behavior by trying to use the legislative initiative process to gain attention for their particular points of view, whether this was $200 at the time or $2,000 or $200,000, the sensitivity that I am attempting to reflect here, that I'm asking the body to look to, is the message that we're sending to the public. Not that they will use it, but that they are in a mood of frustration toward government. And when we are raising the bar, when in fact not really raising the bar, because $200 or $2,000 probably won't have an impact on how many initiatives are formed, are introduced. That the only impact, the only message we're sending, beyond that we're trying to be efficient in government, is that we are going, as a legislative body, going to take away power from the public for their ability to engage in direct democracy. I am telling you, it is a frustration, it is a contradiction that exists between the public's desire to have us legislate and the public's frustration when they see measures on the ballot and they come up to you and say, why didn't you solve this problem? I pay you to legislate. I'm not suggesting, which was appropriately suggested in many of the arguments on this floor, that it's a rational outcome. But it does send a very big message to the public that I have looked at time and time again, where we are in competition with them as lawmakers and we are trying to raise the bar. And I'll only suggest if we had an argument that it was to eliminate some pressure on the general fund, to create equity or fairness in that regard, it may have been, as suggested at the Elections Committee in the Senate, that it should be $8,000. But to have this arbitrary number, you build the ire and frustration of the public in a way that I am keenly aware in my years of involvement. And on the other hand, you don't get outcomes that you really are seeking to get in terms of having a chilling effect, in my judgment, on the number of initiatives that are filed by well-funded initiative filers. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator Lara, please close.
Thank you. I do appreciate the dialogue and discussion. I want to give our members here kind of an idea of just how the amount of initiatives and the cost that it's cost us to the state. You know, between 2009 and 2013, there have been 315 proposed initiative measures submitted for circulating title and summary. Of those 315 initiative proposals, only 27 have qualified for the ballot, clearly demonstrating that some folks are just using this to usurp and to say it's protecting average day Californians. You know, we live in California, the cradle of the direct democracy, and I'm a strong believer in the right of the public to participate in the process. But we also need to have a threshold for reasonableness. This fee has not been updated in 72 years. Amending laws and making statewide policy is not something that we should be taken lightly. A $2,000 fee set by this bill will help cover the cost for the Attorney General's office drafting the title and summary and legislation. And I do appreciate members from both sides of the aisle addressing the need and the issue of assisting low-income families and poor people. And what makes the arguments moot today that we heard from the opposition is that if, again, reminding you all members that if the initiative makes it to the ballot, the fee will be refunded. The fee will be refunded if it makes it to the ballot. And so, again, as we prepare for the closing of session in these next 4 weeks, I'm going to be very vigilant in reminding our members of those policies that actually help poor people here in this country and in California. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No. Block. Aye. Canella. No. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. Galgiani. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. No. Hill. Aye. Weso. Aye. Huff. No. Jackson. Aye. Lada. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leyva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell.
Aye.
Aye. Monning. Morlock. No. Burrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. No. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Gaines. Galgiani. No. Monning. Runner.
Ayes 23, noes 14. The measure passes. Colleagues, we're going to return to governor's appointments, file items 6 and 7. File item 6, Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, file item number 6, we have Mr. John Snyder, Bobby Anderson, as well as Joseph Federico. Mr. Schneider is a member of the Board of Pilot Commissioners. He is a Marine Operations Manager for Tesoro, and he is being reappointed to the Board of the Pilot Commissioners. Ms. Bobby Anderson, as well as Mr. Joseph Federico, are both members of the Board of Barbering as well as Cosmetology. These are both reappointments. They were heard in Rules Committee July 1st. They were passed on a bipartisan manner. No votes, 4-0. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. And Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lara. I. Leno. I. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. Mitchell.
Aye.
I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. I. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Gaines. Mendoza. I. Runner.
Ayes 38, noes 0. The appointments are confirmed. File item 7, Senator De Leon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, this is the last slate of government appointments for today. File item number 7, we have Deborah Cornes, who is the Director of the Office of Administrative Law, OAL, as well as Ms. Beverly Johnson, who is the Deputy Director of the Office of Administrative Law. Both these individuals are being reappointed. They were heard on July 8th in Rules Committee, passed in a bipartisan vote. No votes, 4-0. I respectfully ask for an aye vote. With that, let me add one, Mr. Zachary Morasini. Mr. Zachary Morasini is a Director of Office of Administrative Hearings. He has served as the Deputy Attorney General and General Counsel for the FPCC. He is well qualified to lead the Office of Administrative Hearings. Again, his nomination was heard on July 8th, passed on a 4-0 vote, bipartisan, no votes. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on file item number 7. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. I. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. Galgiani. I. Glazer. I. Hall. I. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lara. I. Leno. I. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell.
Aye.
I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. I. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wykowski. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Call the absent members.
Wykowski, aye.
Thank you. Ayes 38, noes 0. The appointments are confirmed. At this time, the regular session will stand in recess, and the second extraordinary session will be convened. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Introduction and first reading of bills. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 12 by Senator McGuire, an act relating to developmental services.
Got it. If there's no further business in the second extraordinary session, the second extraordinary session will stand in recess, and the regular session will be reconvened. We are now returning to motions and resolutions. This is the time for adjourn in memory, if members have them. Motions and resolutions. Senator Bates.
Thank you, Madam President. For the purpose of adjourn in memory of Mr. Jim Simos, he was born in 1927 as the son of Greek immigrants. With his parents' approval, he joined the Navy at age 16 during World War II and re-enlisted to serve in Korea. He was a firefighter with the Los Angeles Fire Department and was awarded a Medal of Valor from Mayor Tom Bradley in 1989 for assisting a Los Angeles police officer who was under fire. He competed in the Boston Marathon, the Los Angeles Marathon, and the Firemen's Olympics. Most importantly, Jim loved his country and his family. He was a cherished husband to his wife, Olive, who preceded him in death. And he was a much-loved father, grandfather, great-grandfather, uncle, and friend. He is survived by his children, Linda Simos, Michael Simos, and Demetria Heidi Loper. and his grandchildren, Courtney Holland and Megan Loper, and great-grandson, Cooper Holland. As the family of Jim Simos celebrates his life and mourns his passing, we extend our condolences to his entire family. As part of the Capitol community, we want to acknowledge the special people that we interact with here in Sacramento is Jim's granddaughter, Megan Loper, his daughter, Demetria Loper, and his son-in-law, Dennis Loper. We can only imagine his pride in them. Members, I ask that the Senate adjourn today in the memory of Jim Simos.
Thank you very much. Senator Walk.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to report the untimely and sudden death of Judy Kern Fazio, who's the wife of Vic Fazio, who represented our area for well over 30 years. Judy was an extremely strong and active woman, a wife, a mother, a supporter of many of us, and is well known to us here in the Sacramento and Yolo areas. She was born in November of 1943. She moved to California as a young girl and attended Sacramento City College. She got involved in a lot of political activities. Phil Eisenberg's first mayoral campaign, which was successful. And she met Vic when he was running for the state assembly successfully, and then he was elected to Congress after that. They were married after that in 1983, and she was, as Vic said, a very strong woman. You need to be in the environment in which a member of Congress operates. She was well known as an extraordinary hostess, an active member of the Democratic National Committee, very strong supporter of women, and she is survived by her son, Kevin, stepdaughter Dana Fazio, both who live in Fair Oaks, 3 granddaughters, and a daughter, Christy of Virginia. She was preceded in death by her stepdaughter, Ann Noel Fazio. A gathering is being planned for Sacramento sometime this fall. I ask you to join me in adjourning in her memory.
Thank you very much. Senator Wieckowski, who will be joined by Senator Glazier on this adjourning memory. Senator Wieckowski.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to adjourn in memory of Sergeant Scott Lunger of the Hayward Police Department. Sergeant Lunger was killed July 22nd in the line of duty during a routine traffic stop in Hayward. I attended the service at the Oakland Coliseum, and it was quite moving. He's a former member of the IBEW Local 595. He switched his careers and eventually joined the Hayward Police Department in 2001. He was a beat cop. He was a cop's cop, a SWAT member, served on the gang task force, and was a field training officer. He's beloved by the community and well respected within the Hayward Police Department. When he made that career change from electrician general foreman to law enforcement, he never looked back. At the funeral, they talked of his natural leadership, how he was a motivator, a mentor for his colleagues and the young people joining the force. He served in the city of Hayward with a high degree of professionalism throughout his career. The morning that he was killed, he had previously made a felony stop. He had arrested somebody who had stolen a motorcycle. He had stopped them, brought them back in, and generally in the cop world, that's a good day's work. And Scott was the type of guy that said, let's go out there and get the bad guys, and went back out and gave his life. So our condolences go out to the family and friends and colleagues.
Thank you. Senator Glazier.
Madam President, I'd like to rise and join with Senator Wieckowski in adjourning in the memory of Sergeant Lunger. He was a resident of Senate District 7. We lost a good man just doing his job. Scott was a 1985 Dublin High School graduate, attended Diablo Valley College and Chico State, where he played football. He lived in Brentwood and had a passion for coaching his daughters in softball. Even after his girls were done playing, Scott continued coaching as a voluntary assistant coach at Freedom High in Oakley. His players would always call him Sarge. Scott's work, the way he served and protected people, was a source of pride to family and friends. His presence as a mentor to younger police officers and to the youth he coached is something that cannot be replaced. Sergeant Scott Lunger will be deeply missed by all those who knew him and loved him. My condolences to his wife, Donna, and daughters, Ashton and Sarah Lynn, and I respectfully ask that you adjourn his memory today.
Thank you. Senator Cueso.
Thank you, Madam President. Senators, I rise to adjourn the memory of a very extraordinary Californian, a very important member of the city of Hopeville and of the county of Imperial County. Elwood J. Mellinger, also known as Pete Mellinger, was born on April 29, 1923, in Ithaca, Michigan, where he was raised on a farm, and he recently passed away July 31, 2015, at the age of 92. He attended grade school in a one-room schoolhouse and then graduated from Ithaca High School in 1941, where he captained his undefeated high school football team to a state championship. During World War II, he joined the military, serving in the armed forces, where he served until 1946. After the war, he attended Michigan State University, where he graduated with a BS in agriculture education and later with a master's degree. And in 1949, he started his lifelong career teaching in the agricultural discipline. He taught at Imperial Valley College's Ag Department for 28 years, from 1961 until his retirement in 1989, and subsequently served on the Imperial Valley College's Board of Trustees. His imprint at the Imperial Valley College was also recognized last month by the IVC Board of Trustees, where they voted to rename the Agriculture Building Mellinger Hall in his honor. Furthermore, Mr. Mellinger served in the city of Hopeville for almost 42 years until the time of his passing. Mr. Holtville, as he was affectionately known, was an award-winning member of the Holtville Planning Commission and also served as a city councilman and a city treasurer, where he worked on many projects that to this day have made a significant impact in the lives of residents of Holtville. Every project in the last 42 to 45 years has his imprint on it. He was known to have an encyclopedic knowledge of Hopeville's history, and as a great visionary for his community, as he never stopped planning or dreaming what could be accomplished to the benefit of his home in California. Mellinger was a lifelong member of St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Hopeville and many other notable organizations, including the American Legion, the Cladow Club, Veteran of Foreign Wars, and Hopeville Chamber of Commerce, to name a few. He is survived by his wife of 65 years, Eve Brown Mellinger, his children, Mark, Mary, and Margot, his 9 grandchildren, and his 6 great-grandchildren. As one of the most beloved citizens and ardent supporters of the city of Hopeville and Imperial Valley, he will be dearly missed by all those lives he touched. I ask you to join me in adjourning in his memory today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And if all of the senators who presented adjournments in memory, if you'd please be sure to bring the names to the desk so they could be duly noted. Senator Lara, for purposes of announcement.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll reconvene our Senate Appropriations Committee at 4:15.
Thank you, sir. And if there's no other business, Senator De Leon, the desk is clear.
Thank you very much, Madam President, colleagues. We will reconvene floor session on Thursday at 9 a.m. Just a couple notes, especially for the newer members and members who have been out for a little while and are returning now. This week, we're going to have some policy hearings, but not the same schedule as we've had the previous weeks before the break. We will have a few policy hearings on both sides of the chamber, as well as the first and the second extraordinary session. We'll be having hearings on Tuesday as well as Wednesday. So next week, a Thursday, is what we call, obviously, the appropriations dump on both sides, which will take place on Thursday. So therefore, especially for the newer members, the vast majority of the bills are not at the desk, but rather on the other side. The Senate bills are in the other house. So those measures that are keyed fiscal that are in the Appropriations Committee that most likely will be on the suspense file. Obviously, it would behoove you to engage with the chair of the Appropriations Committee, the Assembly side, as well as our colleagues on the other side will be engaging with the chair of the Appropriations Committee. So next week, Thursday, will be the dump. And that will be the final fiscal vetting process of the bills will actually be eligible for third reading on both sides of the chamber. So then the week after next, the last 2 weeks, we'll be having continuous floor session every day to deal with all the bills that are on the Assembly side as well as the Senate side, here in the Senate side. So again, obviously, the schedule's light with regards to policy hearings this week, but we will be having some policy hearings, for example, elections. First, an extraordinary session, hearings of respective chairs, Mr. Bell, as well as Mr. Hernandez will be holding hearings this week. Our counterparts will be holding hearings as well, too, in the first and second extraordinary session. Next week, fiscal suspense. I highly suggest that you engage with your counterparts on the other side. The final 2 weeks, we'll be having floor session every single day. Right. With that, have a great, productive next few days, and we'll see each other on Thursday at 9 a.m.
The Senate will stand adjourned. We will reconvene Thursday, August 20th at 9 a.m.